Welcome back, everyone, to the Local Service Mastery Podcast. Now, as you know, we're on a mission to help home service business owners grow and scale their business by bringing experts from the service industry. And today's guest is a very special one because Austin Josie is coming from a different angle than most of the guests that we had so far, who are more of consultants, coaches, and people who are helping the businesses to grow. Austin, on the other hand, he buys service businesses. So, Austin, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to speak with you today.
Amazing, man. So, before we dive deep into, um, there's so many topics that I want to cover with you, but AI, how is this changing the service industry game? Because like it's just mind-boggling for me, just to I'm on Twitter all day just following what's happening, with ChatGPT 4, and you now have Auto GPT, and like you have so many advancements that you can see the ramifications of it on the white collar, and on the lawyers and on the copyright and on the developer side. But how do you see it plays out in the service industry?
I think it can actually help each individual business get more customer centric, meaning faster response times, immediate response times in most cases, especially if you're implementing some of those AI bots into your website or into your follow up. I think really for us, just some of the renderings and some of the other things that are coming out with like how you're able to model like a project to someone is even starting to get mind blowing. I just saw a video this morning where it looked like they were doing like a very high resolution tour of someone's home. And the guy's like, this is not recording, this is not anything. This is actually an AI automated tour of my home. And I'm just like, that is amazing. Now think about it when you're able to send somebody a tour of their roof or a tour of their like whatever you're servicing, and it just adds a level of customer service that hasn't ever been there before. I've gotten recordings from my mechanic, but it's all choppy and stuff when they're working on my car. But imagine something where it's just like, hey, here's your brand new roof, and it's just like a nice, quick, seamless tour, and it looks amazing.
I love it. I haven't even thought about it in that sense. I'm always like thinking about the marketing angle and like the lead generation side of things. So for instance, there's one tool, I think it's called 11 Labs, if I'm not mistaken, where you basically upload your like voice. It does like a very high end like voiceovers. So you're thinking of how you can basically implement this into video and ads that you don't necessarily need to create and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, in the customer service side, it's something that is fascinating. Do you see some of the companies that you're looking into that are implementing this, or is it too early stages for the service businesses?
I've seen it be too early stages. I think a lot of people are hearing about this coming. Know that it's probably going to be an important part, but maybe don't know how to implement it like right into their business right away. Which the businesses that we're out there and that we're actively acquiring, we're okay with that. We're okay if they're a little bit, behind the times because we want to bring them to current. But yeah, I think it's still preliminary. Like you have the early adopters right now, right? And then pretty soon it's going to be everybody's using it. But I think just as people that are blazing the path and like are getting ahead of the game, obviously they're going to get a better market share because of what they're able to do with the AI. But yeah, I think as they kind of show, well, here's how we're implementing it into our business, I think it's going to be huge for everyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about Gonzo Capital. What do you guys do? And let's start with that really.
Yeah, so Gonzo Capital started we were out there and we were doing a couple of syndications to go out and buy a few different businesses. And Gonzo Capital was kind of like, well, why don't we do this at a bigger scale? We're specifically looking at HVAC, electrical, plumbing, roofing companies throughout the nation that we can go in, that we can acquire, and that we can implement our systems, our tech stacks, everything into, but still make it have that same local presence that the owner has fought so hard for. I mean, being into this industry, the thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the owners of these businesses pour their heart and soul into this business and want it to succeed. And we don't want to just be somebody that's coming in and slapping like our branding or anything like that. No. We want this business to continue to be a living, breathing version of that owner, just with maybe some new upgrades with like, increased marketing, maybe a little bit better on the customer service side of things. But ultimately, we see the value of what these people have fought so hard to build, and we want to continue on that legacy and continue to, give them a retirement income throughout, so they can just enjoy the rest of their life.
Got it. So, it your like acquisition strategy is basically leaving them in the company as minority, or you're joining in as a minority partner. How does that work?
Yeah, we come in and we take over majority ownership. Now, we we are pretty flexible with if the owner wants to stay on or not. If the owner wants to stay on, maybe in a limited capacity, for example, we're actually working with a guy right now, just had his second heart attack, and he's got a lot of medical bills coming up, and is wondering, well, I've just poured, the last 20 years of my life into this business. Like, what am I going to do? What we're able to do is we're able to keep him on as a limited partner, and we're able to have him still be involved, not in the day to day, maybe some more of the big picture stuff, and really utilize him for the skill set that he's brought, maybe just outside of like the technical side of things. And we're able to keep him on, and now it's allowing us to continue to pay him every month so that he's not just getting one big check from us, but now we're helping him with like his actual retirement. Plus, we're like, hey, this is flexible. You come in whenever you want. You do what you need. Spend time with your grandkids. Spend time with your kids. Spend time with your wife. Go on trips. Really, we just want you to be here for the expertise that you've grown over the last 20 years. And so we really like doing it that way. We will do full buyouts where we're buying all of the company. I think I actually prefer when the owner stays on a little bit longer, or at least wants something to do with the business, just because, like I said, it's all about creating their legacy in the business, and doing it that way, I think it allows us to understand what their legacy truly is at a very in-depth level if they stay on with us.
Right, right. Now, like obviously there's so much to talk about when it comes to acquiring a company, but even before that, I would love to learn a little bit more about your origin story. How did you get involved in the service industry? How did you become an investor? Like how did that leap happen?
Yeah, it's kind of funny when I tell people this because I feel like it never makes sense. But I actually went to school and started working in the traditional corporate world as an accountant. I was working in a private sector, working with accountants, and working at businesses. And one thing I remember is like one day I was looking at some of the financial statements that we're preparing, and I saw a payout to the owners, and it was like $70,000, and I was like, they're making like 70 grand in a quarter. I was like, that's like my salary in just 3 months. This is crazy. So that was the instant where I was like, okay, I really do have to start making like some moves to become a business owner, because that's where all the cash really resides. And at that time, me and my wife found out we were pregnant with our first baby. So I was like, what a better time to just sprinkle on a little bit more stress and just
Right.
go through life full of stress. And so I I actually started doing some marketing help for other companies. I know it's a big jump from accounting to marketing, but I understood the principles of marketing, and I knew how to do campaigns in a very seamless manner, and was
Like
really good.
Google Ads campaigns, Facebook
Yeah,
campaigns.
yeah, just like pure lead generation campaigns. And so I was just like a hired mercenary where I just go out and do those lead generation campaigns. I wasn't necessarily the best on like overall strategy, but I could get the results for those campaigns. And so I was able to build this business up, and kind of through the process, um, I was working with a lot of home service companies because obviously I want to maximize my customers' return on acquisition. And, working with a roofer, it's like, well, if they close one of my jobs, they more than double pay for what they're paying me. And so that's how
Absolutely.
I can have the maximum impact for them. And so working with these, and again finding out how much money is like on the ownership side of these service companies, I was like, okay, interesting. But it took me a while. I actually went into a different business venture and failed miserably. And then I was kind of left, and I was like, well, do I build up my marketing company still? Like, what should I do? And it was at that point where I was like, no, I, I, I see where an opportunity lies with these service companies to help people that are getting ready to retire or want to retire and just don't know how, and then being able to go in and put in a new system in place so that it helps reach more customers. And so I made a decision. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start looking for businesses to buy. So I started going through like 7 or 8, and I was like, okay, I can spot a good deal. From my accounting days, I understood like how to read the financials, and I could spot like irregularities and like all of this stuff. And you know what? I actually found a deal, and I was like, this is crazy good. I mean, the company was doing 400,000. It was healthy. It was in a good location, and that kind of was like the first step into this world. And then from there, like I said, it's just evolved where now we're doing it at a higher scale, and we're doing it, nationwide. And so really kind of a interesting story with a lot of different kind of backgrounds, but that's really how I ended up where I'm at now.
That's fascinating. So, a couple questions on that. First, like you looked at 7 or 8 deals. How do you even know where to look at? And second, the initial capital, like 400K, is this like what the company was looking for, or was this how much their like the revenue per year was at?
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, so um, there's a few different places that you can actually go and look at it. And now, if I were to give advice to myself, a year or a year and a half ago, it would be completely different than what I did. But I actually just went to a public broker site, and that's Biz Buy Sell. And I went through kind of just like the normal thing, request the paperwork, all that kind of stuff. And so they were doing 400,000 in revenue, and it always is a little intimidating to go into a business, especially if they're like, well, we're asking for 400,000 or 100,000. It's like, well, I don't have 100,000, and every single owner is like, well, we want it in one lump sum payment. But there's something beautiful out there, and it's called seller financing, and it allows you to get really, really creative with these
So
business owners.
so break it down for for the average Joe who doesn't know how seller financing works.
Yeah. So let's just say that we have ABC Roofing, and that I'm talking to their business owner, and he's. I'm usually talking to people that are usually in their 50s, sometimes even in their 60s, that are kind of on the last little bit, kind of just want to go into retirement. And what seller financing is that the seller will actually finance your deal. So rather than going and getting a bank loan or an SBA loan to go out and acquire this, where it's going to have 10% interest, it's going to be over the next 10 to 15 years, seller financing is a creative way to finance the deal just through the seller. So the seller already owns this business outright. So I can say, okay, look, Sam, I love your roofing business. I want to buy your roofing business. However, I cannot put on the $400,000 that you're asking for up front. Now, what I can do is I can pay you back every single month with interest, and include you into the profit sharing so that I can pay you off sooner rather than just the 10 years that it will take for the SBA to fully be matured. And it'll give you money into your retirement. And so let's just say this 400,000, I can give him, more money in the long run. Usually they're still going to want a down payment, but that can be 10. I've gotten a business for as low as 0% down. And it
Wow.
just depends on the situation that you can. But then it's an agreement between you and the seller of which you're financing the deal and the terms are made clear. So the first business that we put $3,000 down, and then the kind of yeah, it seems crazy, but these deals are out there. It's nuts. And so
Crazy.
we put $3,000 down, and then we told them, look, we're gonna be new to this. We're gonna hit some road bumps. Like, we know we're gonna have a kind of like just a learning curve as an ownership group, because I went in on it with like two other of my business partners, and we said, so the minimum payment that we will always pay you, no questions asked, is $500 a month. Now, currently we are seeing that our expenses are going to be $10,000 every month. Anything after that 10,000, you will get 3 cents of every dollar, or 30 cents of every dollar. So we'll pay you off 30% profit share until we pay off the loan. And so now it's moonshotted. We've been able to pay like rather quickly and get him taken care of. So rather than a 10-year deal, he's more looking at like a 2-year payback period. And it's allowed him to kind of go out, and we've been able to fund some of his other ventures, and it's gotten him out of the business that he didn't want to be in anymore.
Got it. And so, like when you're doing like usually seller finance is when the owner of the company wants to basically step out and just leave the business, or he wants to still be involved. How does that usually go?
Usually, if we're seller financing, I see that they more want to step out of the business. They're not as concerned about like wanting to still be in the business. Usually, when we're giving them a larger down payment and maybe full purchase price up front, um, they're wanting to stay on a little bit and just kind of like a consulting capacity. But yeah, it's different situations for different people. There's a lot of home service companies out there, and is seller financing going to work with 100% of them? No, but
Yeah,
it only takes one, and then that's your first one, and then it only takes one to get to your second one, and so just continuing to find that person that understands that they're going to get more money in the long term, and instead of taking 3 or 4 months to close because we're waiting on loans, we can close in like 2 weeks. So a little bit of a faster timeline as well.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, like okay, so you have two other partners. Like, are you just the like the finance guys, or are you also the operators of these businesses after you acquire them?
Yeah, so with the first one, we definitely were a more hands-on operations role. Kind of the background of all of us, though, is that we're all veterans in the U.S. military. My business partners were Marines. I was Army. And so we were fortunate enough to get a lot of experience on operations, like in the military. And so we've gone into these businesses and we restructure them so that it's the similar structure as any military unit that you'd go into, right? You got your commander, and then you got your platoon commanders, and then you got your squad leaders, everything like that. Like we have it broken down to where it all makes sense. We have operations that flow seamlessly. And while we might not have the exact expertise as like, let's say, an HVAC, I have roofing experience, but like HVAC, I don't. We bring in somebody, or we have the owner stay on that does have that expertise, and then we fill in the gaps with other people that are high performers that we can continue to grow this business. And so we do step in very heavily for probably the first year on the operations side, especially as we're just implementing new things and making sure that we understand, again, like, what's the legacy of this business. Like, we don't want to gut this business. That's not our intention. Our intention is just to maybe add a new aspect that hasn't been there before, and then continue to grow the business. And so yeah, we really just focus on one big operational like sweep, and then going out and just executing on that operational plan that we put in place.
Got it. Now, how do you, like you said that you have, like, let's say no expertise in HVAC. How do you even find like a good, I don't know, whether it's office manager, it's pretty simple, but like a COO or operational manager for the entire company? How do you bring someone on board?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that finding the right personnel is probably the most tricky part, but that's true from the technician level all the way up to the COO level. Um, Bringing on the right person that balances out your weaknesses is key. So, one thing that we do, we have some connections to some really big general contractors, especially back out east, and we've been able to have a pipeline of people that have been doing pretty high level big projects, $100 million projects as project managers at a general consulting or general contracting firm. And they understand like the overall operations of things, right? They understand like timelines. They understand from point A to point Z, here are the different steps that we're going to need. And so on a big picture, they understand the operational side. So we really like those kind of guys that have experience dealing with HVAC, maybe don't have the HVAC experience specifically, to come in and be like maybe more of a general manager. But we actually have been able to find people on staff, usually at these places. Well, one of my favorite questions actually to ask the owner before he leaves is, hey, who's your A player? Like if you were, let's just say you were out for like 2 weeks, who are you turning to and saying, hey, you're my guy or you're my girl? Like, who is it?
Yeah.
And more likely or not, they have a rock star on the team that can step up into that operations manager position. And then what I like about that is that you're not losing the essence of the company. You're not losing the culture. You're bringing in somebody that's been inside, that's been part of the culture, that can help operate. Like I said, the general contractors that we're bringing in, more of like maybe like a general manager that's maybe over like 2 or 3 locations. But with these operations managers, every single one of them has been part of that company so far.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. And usually, okay, so you said that on in the first year you're more heavily vested into the company and into restructuring and everything. What happens next? Like how does it look from your side as an investor, and how does it look from the owner's side that now has become a minority partner?
Yeah, and really it's based on what we've decided with the owner, whether they are going to give us. Usually at the time of sale, we'll say, well, how many years do you actually want to be included in the business? Is it 3 years? Do you only want to do a year? Is it 5? Is it until you pass away? Like what is it? And so we're pretty flexible with that. That obviously goes into like the terms of each deal, and what it's going to be. But I'd say most likely you're going to see the owners kind of be involved for like the first 3 years in some sort of limited capacity, and then they just kind of go their way and enjoy retirement, or maybe it's just a year, whatever. We make that work, and then our view from more of like the owner slash investor standpoint is, okay, so where's our lane of growth? Where is that next? Where's that next level for this company? And then we start thinking strategically. It's like, okay, well, we do have really good relationships with general contractors. Is it maybe teaming up with one of them and becoming like their preferred vendor, or is it some of these companies that we're going into don't have a super strong digital marketing presence? Is it opening that up and introducing a new stream of revenue that's never been there before? And so we actually think more strategically. Okay, let's get our 3-year plan in action right now, and then with our 5-year goal, right? And so really it's more strategically thinking of, okay, what's the next level for this company? Where do we take it? Usually we're looking at making those strategic partnerships. We're looking at opening up digital advertising, because I'm sure I don't have to tell you that really quality advertising marketing plans, it's not just even a 1 year and you're done type of thing. It's if you deliberately build over the course of 3 to 5 years, you will have a machine that is just bringing people to your company. And so that's one of the focuses that we go into each of these companies with, is how do we set up that machine?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, when you're talking about people in their 50s and 60s, a lot of times they, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times they're just relying almost solely on word of mouth at that point, where it's very, like new for them to open up a Google business profile or Facebook ads or Google ads. That those are terms that are like beyond their comprehension, and it's um, like there's a like a lot of leads that are just like waiting to be grabbed by you guys. So yeah, it's definitely an amazing opportunity. Do you see this to be true, that the older folks get more of the word of mouth or more traditional marketing rather than heavily investing in online marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I do see every now and then that some of these guys are pretty heavily invested in the digital marketing, but every single one of them that we've gone into has killed it with referrals and word of mouth. They have a existing relationship with all of their customers. I mean, those customers don't go anywhere else. They've had people that they've been servicing for like the last 10 years, and it's just, that's just how they do it. And I think one thing that we've noticed is, like you said, they're leaving leads on the table because they just don't understand like this next step. But at the end of the day, they've built a really successful company, and they're just tired. They don't want to
Yeah,
build that
yeah,
next step.
yeah,
They're tired of building.
yeah, yeah.
And so for us to come in, maybe a little bit of fresh blood and being able to do that for them, kind of helps just take that business to the next level.
Definitely, definitely. And okay, so we like we talked about a little bit about your like your early days. Then after the 3 to 5 years, do you sell the company? Do you leave it as a cash flow business for the private equity? Like your company is based on LPs, or is it all like some personal funds that you and your partner have, and you're just like, this is your cash flow? How does that work?
Yeah, we go into every business like anticipating that we're never going to sell. Like I said, I think private equity especially is kind of like a tainted word in some of these businesses because they're just like, oh, they're going to gut in 5 to 7 years. We're on
Yeah,
the selling block again. And we
yeah,
really don't want that to be what our scenario is. We want to buy these businesses. We want to take them to that next level, and we want to be part of their stories rather than just another stop until they get to their next destination. So right now, our philosophy is buy and hold. We like being able to. I mean, you think about it. Each of these businesses is so integrated into the community that you're providing jobs for these people. You're providing a source of revenue and a contribution to each community that you're going into, and that is an aspect that we take very, very deeply. We want to make sure that we're a value add, not just a value add until it's beneficial for us to sell. And so definitely more of a buy and hold. The way that we kind of have our structure is that our LPs can choose to get bought out at a certain point of their investment journey with us. But we as the owners or the partners, we retain full right to actually just continue to own these businesses in the long term. And so kind of a unique setup where we're not having an eye to sell, but really that's where we see the most value right now.
I definitely agree with you, and I think that I'm coming from a background in like in the startups, and I've been involved with a lot of VC work, which is a completely different beast. And like these companies, like the tech companies, and especially when you're like when you first, and you know this because you work for a corporate, it's like you kind of I don't want to say you look down on the service industry, but it's like it's not as attractive. But the more you understand the finance and the business behind, like those are the most amazing businesses to own. To be honest, like way more than a startup that could succeed in one in 100 in most cases, and is heavily relying on venture capital funds to operate. These businesses are cash producing entities, and today I'm just like, I'm in love with these type of businesses. And you also see how like the business owners are able to build a fortune with real estate that they're investing in, and stuff like that, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you even go to like the labels that they put on it, right? Like those venture capital firms call it unicorns, and so it's like, I mean, they're thinking that this is a majestical, company, like it's gonna moonshot, like, and then you come to these blue collar service companies, and it's blue collar, like they're, and it's often overlooked, like it's more of the foundation upon which we were built, but that foundation is a very solid one. Like you said, there's a lot of cash to be made, and there's a lot of it that can go around. I mean, I definitely think that there's a lot of people that can win out there. Like we don't have to be the only winners, and you can share that with others, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you just go back to like the labels that they put on it, and you got unicorns and blue collar.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So, okay, now we understand your side. Let's talk about now you're looking into a deal, and this is more from the service business owner who's thinking of selling. How do you assess a company? What things that you want to see as an investor? What kind of key tips do you have for business owners who are looking to maybe just sell their company and move to the next phase in their life?
Yeah. The thing that's going to add speed to the equation is your accounting. Is your accounting dialed in, and can you provide, 3 to 5 years of tax returns, balance statement, or balance sheets, income statements? Like, have you been actively doing your books? Now, some of that answer is yes, and maybe it's just not as organized, which is fine. But that's going to be like the biggest red flag that we look at in a business is if the accounting is a mess, or if it is behind on their taxes, or whatever you want to say. Like, that's going to be our biggest red flag is, well, what else has been slipping through the cracks? And so
Yeah.
if they can say, well, yeah, we can give you, the previous 3 years of all that stuff, no problem. Let us ask our CPA. Like, that's just music to our ears, because it means that they've gone in and they've really cared about being very compliant when it comes to the accounting side of things. And so first and foremost is, if you're thinking about selling, first hit me up. I'd love to talk. But second is just have your accounting dialed in, and make sure that you have clean books, that you have an audit trail, and that you've had somebody look over them. Usually when you're working with a broker, chances are they're going to help you get to that point, if you're not there already, and they're a good way to bounce some ideas off of. But first and foremost is going to be, the accounting portion of it, and like how well you've been able to manage that, right? And so that's, like I said, that's the first thing that we go through. Second is, the team that you have built around you. Is what's the culture that you've built in the business? Is it a lot like a family? Because usually these companies that we're going in and we're seeing, they have built like a culture that pretty much everybody's worked there for 10 plus years or 5 plus years, and they're very tight knit. That's that's a great sign when we're looking at going in and buying businesses, right? Is the employees are there for a long time, and they don't have any plan on leaving, And so, and then, there's some more nitty gritty, but I'd say those are like the two big things is your people in place, and are they doing well? And then are your finances clean, and can we get, 5 years worth or 3 years worth, and not have too big of an issue?
Got it. And in terms of the employees, I- I'm my guess is that there is like you look at businesses differently between those who are hiring subcontractors and those who are have their own W-2 employees on staff. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've bought a company that primarily uses subcontractors. To that point, it's just how high quality are your subcontractors, right? If they're a roofing crew, are they, I mean, do they have like a track record of success? Have there been any issues on the installs that you've been able to get them on? Like, what do their track records look like? Because at the end of the day, these subcontractors are out there working hard, and it's a great business relationship to have. Um, I have found though that it's a little bit more tight knit when maybe you have the technicians on staff. If you're an HVAC company or electrical company or a plumbing company, you have those technicians in house. It just seems to the culture's a little bit more team based rather than just subbing it out. From what I've seen, at least.
Got it. And in terms of like profit margins, that is this something that you pay attention to when you look at the business, or you're like, it's okay even if their profit margins are slim because I know that I can scale it up and do a better job on the operational side.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, we're definitely going to look into it. In fact, I usually have about 75 different points. Like when we're going through and we're kind of going through our due diligence that I want answered. Like I said, the biggest and the most important to me is the accounting side of things. That's going to be the biggest red flag for me. But margins, like you said, let's just say you're doing everything at like a 10% margin or a 20% margin, but industry standard is like closer to 35 or 40%. That's just something that we can deal with on the back end. But I'm more interested in what do your customers have to say about you? How well does your team run? How well is your operations like staffed? And then, like I said, I'm not even too worried about what are you doing for marketing, because I know I can go in and implement a marketing system. I know I can do that. And so we're looking for companies that just have a solid foundation in, like I said, the accounting realm, the operations realm, the people realm, and have a great reputation. Because chances are, if they have that great reputation, things have been done cleanly and done well for a long time.
Yep, definitely. And like, okay, now like a deal has come to the table. How long does it take you to make a decision? Like, how long from the moment you view the deal until close, and what are the different steps that are happening in the process? So now that a business owner is thinking of selling, that he knows that okay, this is normal. This is not like oh my god, it's taking too long, or it's like whoa, it's too fast.
Yeah. Uh, I guess to answer that question, I'm going to give like just like a few different timelines. Like let's just say that it's going to be like a seller finance deal, kind of like right up our wheelhouse right now, and we're going to pay you, your 20, 25, 30% down, or your 10% down, or whatever we're going to pay you down. We can, from the time that we start reaching out to you and asking for all these documents to the time that we close, can be as short as like a month or a month and a half. So, because we're not having to work with a bank, we're not having to work with a lender. Sometimes that is going to be the longest and hardest part, is getting the financing lined up, and that's like that's why we love these seller finance deals, is because man, we can move quickly and we can make the transition a lot more seamless if we do. But that's not the case with 100% of these. And so getting the financing in place, that alone can take up to 3 months, maybe even 5 months, especially if there's a lot, maybe if it's a bigger company, or there's just a lot of different, like if the accounting's maybe not all buttoned up, but it's just kind of taking a longer process. The thing that I've seen though that's going to be key, both on the seller and the buyer's end, is how communicative are you during this process? Like if you say that you're going to get me something in a day, are you actually going to get it to me in a day? Because if it's like everything that you have to get, if it takes like a week at each time, it's like, well, now you've prolonged this period 5 weeks when we could have just had it done in a week.
Right.
And so I would say like a typical timeline is anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's obviously kind of like a wide one. If we're going into a year, it's probably like a big acquisition, multi-million-dollar company type thing, and there's just a lot of due diligence that has to go with that. But really, first step is we're gonna reach out and be like, hey, we're interested, or they come to us and we're like, they're interested in selling, be like, great, here's what we need first and foremost from you. And then, we give them, here's exactly what we need so we can start looking to see if we're going to be a good fit for you or not.
So the things that I want to dive deeper into it. So the things that you need, okay, finances. What other things do they need to prepare on their back end in order to be ready for an acquisition?
Yeah. If you're actively thinking that you want to sell, first, if you know somebody that's wanting to buy, that you can do this off market, great. Like, go directly to that buyer and say, hey, I'm interested in selling. Like, let's talk. One great way is actually to talk to a business broker, because they're going to help you get all of this taken care of. They're going to help you get like a business overview done. They're going to get you a financial statement piece done. They're going to get like all this return and modeling done for what the buyer's looking for. So they're going to help kind of streamline that process for you. It might take a month or two to work with the business broker to get that ready to go, but they're going to help
And
you.
how much
But
are they taking? Sorry to cut you off, but just like because that's the first thing that comes to mind is a business. Okay, I'm going to a broker. What percentage of the deal is he taking?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I want to say the last one that we did with the business broker, I think his commission was like 5 to 10% or something like that.
Okay,
And so
yeah,
of the deal, so it's like, they're gonna probably take 30 to 40 thousand out of the purchase price. And so if you're selling for 400,000 or 300,000,
yeah.
maybe a little bit lower, it really just depends on what services the broker's gonna be offering to help you sell this. Some of those more high end ones are obviously going to be a little bit more. Some of the ones that maybe are just getting their foot in the door will be a little bit less. But if you want to go through this yourself, that's 100% okay. What I would do is I would start by crafting a business overview. So give me a brief history of your business. How long have you been in business? How many employees do you have? What's your inventory looking like? What equipment do you use? Do you have 3 years of financials? Can you give me like revenue for each year, profit for each year, and like put it on a graph so it looks good? And I call that like your one pager, right? It doesn't have to be one pages. It can be like 5 pages,
Yeah.
but you know, have a one pager that you can send to investors, because looking over that, I can say, well, okay, so this is where they're getting the purchase price. Cool. Okay. Looks like they got 5 employees. That's great. Looks like, X, Y, and Z. And so just from that one pager, I can say, well, okay, yeah, I'm interested in this business. Now it's time to go further into like the financials. And so kind of like the first step would be to get that business overview taken care of, and make sure that you have a brief history and you have all that like high level financial stuff on there as well.
Got it. Got it. And usually, what are the multiples for service businesses that they want to sell?
I've seen 2 to 3 x of EBITDA. So if your EBITDA is like 200,000, or your
So
seller's
let's break
discretionary.
it down EBITDA for those who don't know what EBITDA is.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I should yeah. I say that, and like I kind of don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very common on the PE side and when you're an investor, but sometimes like people is like, what my net profit is, or like what's EBITDA?
yeah. So let's put it as like as simple as possible. So it actually stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Okay, all those are still really big words. Still probably, like, if you haven't been in finance, probably something that's you're still like, dude, what's amortization or whatever. But it's a statistic used to pretty much look at the operation performance and essentially look at your cash flow. Like, are you cash flow positive? Are you cash flow negative? Right? And it kind of takes out some of the expenses and everything like that, and often referred to as seller discretionary earnings. Like, after we pay out like all of our people and we're about to pay taxes, this is like the level. It's usually what's on your tax return. I've seen too. A lot of people will use that, but again, using a broker, they'll be able to help nail that down again. But yeah, so you have this EBITDA, and let's just say, for sake of math, that it's $100,000. That's what your EBITDA is. Now, what I have seen almost across the board for roofing, HVAC, electrical, and plumbing companies is it's a 2 to 3x multiple, meaning you could sell then for 200,000 to 300,000. What's the difference between a 200,000 and a 300,000? Well, what equipment's being included in the sell? What kind of contracts do you have in place? Are you an exclusive contract with like some really big commercial jobs? You know, that kind of scenario, you could potentially say, well, we got this contract that's going to give you, 90% of your revenue or 50% of your revenue locked up for the next 5 years. So we're going to charge a 3.5 multiple. Those are things that you can really look at. But I'd say on average, I see closer to 2 to 2.5 x multiple with some of the ones that maybe have more equipment, more inventory, and maybe bigger contracts locked up for long periods of time on that 3x multiple kind of scale.
And on the marketing side and branding side, how big of a deal is it to have a strong brand or strong online presence for you guys, and for the seller in terms of multiple?
So for us, again, we actually look for businesses that maybe we can add a stream of revenue that maybe don't have that as part of it. I've seen that if they have like a pretty good marketing strategy, usually their EBITDA is obviously a little bit higher, and so they're going to make the money back on just like that 3x multiple. But if you can concisely say, hey, here's our marketing plan, here's what we've done in the last 2 years with it, here was our next 3-year plan or year plan, and here were the next steps that we're going to implement, that just adds validity to how established your company is, right? And so by being able to show a seller or a buyer, here is exactly what I'm doing for our marketing, and here's exactly how I'm going to go and get it done. It just looks very professional. Now, again, like we actively buy companies that don't have that, because we know that we can implement that in. But you can definitely ask for more if you have a pretty buttoned up marketing plan that you've been implementing.
Here's my cost per click. Here's my conversion rate. Yeah. Here's our potential growth in this area. Here's how. Yeah. It's. I would think that this is a leverage for the business side when they're coming into a sell, because like,
right. Well,
here are the numbers.
Yeah. Well, and if a business owner told me, here's my cost per click and here's my cost of acquisition, like if he came to me and knew that, I'd just be like, dude, this guy knows what's going on. Like he knows what's going on in his business to a very like small, detailed, explanation. He could probably give it to me. And so it just shows that you're very aware of, and so that speaks to your operations, that speaks to your capability as a business owner, all of that. I think it speaks to a high level, and you've probably seen your revenue grow because of that. And again, you're going to get a higher purchase price if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fascinating because I recently in my program, so I have a coaching program that teaches home service business owners how to generate their leads themselves, because as you know, marketing companies are notorious for over-promising and under-delivering. So I feel like it's essential, almost as knowing how to pay your taxes and know how to get the job done is like know how to generate your leads, especially if you're a young company that like all these most of the companies that you're acquiring are people who've been there for like decades, and are basically ingrained in the community. A lot of the young entrepreneurs, I see a lot of the people in my program are, first generation immigrants, and people are starting it from scratch. So like you don't have this edge of being for many. So you gotta find your edge, and the marketing side and lead generation is definitely part of it. But now I see that a lot more people similar to your scenario, where they came in from finance background or from private equity, whatever it is, decide to buy a business that does $1-2 million a year, the plumbing, HVAC, it doesn't really matter. And now they know that if they learn how to generate their leads and master the lead generation, it's an easy 8-figure business in 3 to 5 years.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, it, and like I said, it's for us. We view it as like introducing a stream of revenue that hasn't been there before. I mean, you have some of these guys that are very ingrained in the community that will reliably do that. That 1 to 2 million, and it's just, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy when you can, get that implemented. And I think exactly what you said. Like, do all marketing agencies are they all not great? No. I mean, there's some really good ones out there, and there's a lot of people that know very in depth. But you're going to be charging a premium. Like, these companies are going to be charging you a premium. So understanding and kind of like what your course teaches of like how to do it, and like understanding some of the basic principles, I think is huge, because it gives you a leg up where you can save on cost immediately, and you can grow. And then, hey, once you are ready to get it off your plate completely, you can go ahead and do that. But then you're going to have a very high detail, so you're going to be able to talk to a marketing person and be like, this guy's talking like, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the
Yeah.
case, And so
Yeah.
you'll know how to spot like a very well seasoned marketer for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, it was very insightful for me, to understand how the the PE and the private equity companies are looking into the service industry, and I'm sure that it's the case for a lot of the viewers and listeners. Are there any books or places that you think that business owners who are maybe thinking of selling in 1 year, 2 year time, that they should learn a little bit more? I know that when people join my program, two of the books that I immediately recommend them is The E-Myth and Built to Sell. So those are like two books that are highly, highly, highly recommended. Are there any other recommendations for people watching this?
Yeah, I think, well, first and foremost, like I said, if you're looking to sell and your accounting's squared up and everything's like ready to go, going to a broker that you can trust is going to be able to get you maybe even more than a 3 multiple. They might be able to get you a little bit more. So finding a really good broker can be huge in that scenario, or finding a buyer that's seasoned and that has done this before and knows exactly what your company's worth and isn't going to take advantage of you, but is going to just maybe work out a deal with you.
How do
I
you
think,
find a broker, Austin? Like, where does one find a broker?
yeah, no, that's a good question. So, if let's just say you have no connections to anything like that, and you're in Nebraska and you're just trying to find like a local broker, you can go to Biz Buy Sell and you can actually say sell my business, and it can, or find a broker, and then you can find a broker like just right there. And so a very, very simple way to go out and spot a broker that you can go out and see a really good return uh, immediately immediately on your business. And so that's one of probably the easiest ways. Sometimes you'll see someone like the bigger national names that have a local presence, and you know, um, sorry, and but they'll be able to help you in a very high way. And then, I mean, and if you need introductions to brokers, I have some that are excellent that I know are doing a great job. Reach out to me. I'm more than willing to connect you to a broker, and a broker who does it at a very high level and that will get the maximum dollar for you. And so I think as a seller, brokers are probably one of your best friends in the process, especially if like you just don't want to go directly to a buyer. You kind of want some help selling. I think a broker is a really great way to do that. But if you're looking to sell and you want to talk to me, I'd love to talk to you, because then I can show you like, well, this isn't for us, but here's what I would do if I were you, and kind of give you some more insight on that.
Got it. So we have like Biz by Sell, and we have so obviously your network. So friends of yours that have sold businesses, maybe they can recommend broker, and yeah, I like I'm thinking like is like the biz buy sell, is this like the premier marketplace for brokers?
I would say that I mean, it's just one that's very concentrated. You actually asked me for like a book that like I would recommend, and I liked yours, like the Built to Sell. That's one of the ones that I actually gave out. So like you had me going through and kind of thinking a little bit more. But like, there's one that's called like Exit Rich. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author's name. And then there's another one. I think it's called The Seller's Journey. Both of those are good ones. I'm trying to think of another one. I think there's one that's called Art of Selling Your Business. I haven't read that one yet, but I know the author, and I know he's a good one as well. But Built to Sell is like one of my number one recommendations. Just with that, and sorry, I kind of glossed over that because I was trying to think. Well, what's the
Yeah,
selling book
you're good. You're
that I
good.
talk about? But yeah, like finding a broker is gonna kind of help you implement that. If you want to go through it yourself because you want to hold as much value as possible, still like in the sell of the business, you know, going through those, maybe even buying a course on like how to sell your business is going to be cheaper than going through a business broker. I'm not sure of courses that do that. I'm sure there's some out there that do it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
could really be beneficial for you.
Amazing. Austin, thank you so much for all this, for all this knowledge and tips and insights on how to sell service business and how things look from your end. I'm sure a lot of people have gained a lot of insights on their businesses just from listening to you speak. Where can people find you? How do people or businesses should reach out to you? Um, Let us know, man.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, which is actually how we got introduced. And I am always checking my messages on there. I'm actually posting a lot about buying businesses. I'm actually posting a lot about the deals that I'm seeing. So
By the
that's
way,
a great.
last question. Sorry to cut
Oh
you off.
no no
Whoa,
no
whoa,
no!
whoa.
You're good.
What's the average deals that you're looking for? So we know like which businesses should reach out.
Yeah, if you're doing sub $1 million in EBITDA and that's like kind of like your wheelhouse, that's what we're actively looking to buy right now. So I'd say sweet spot's probably around 500,000, but we do bigger and we also do a little bit smaller. So if you're looking to sell and you're that sub $1 million mark, we're your people. We can help you get a good deal from us. I feel like we're pretty, reasonable buyers, and we understand that you've, poured your heart and soul into this business for a long time to get it to where it's at. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're interested in selling your business, reach out to me. Even if it's above $1 million, I actively know buyers that are actively looking just from my network that I can introduce you to. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best place to reach out to me. I'm also fairly active on Instagram, and it's just at Austin R Josie is my handle if you want to check me out.
Perfect. So we'll put a link to it in the description below. Austin, thank you so much again, man. It's been amazing, really. I feel like I gained a lot of insights, and thank you all guys for watching. If you like this and you want to see more podcast videos like this one, make sure to hit the like and subscribe to this channel. And until next time, have a great one, guys. Peace.